From Salem Stadium in Salem, Virginia, home of Stag Bowl 41, I'm Pat Coleman. I'm joined by Frank Rossi this afternoon for our Around the Nation podcast special as we get you ready for kickoff Friday night of the Stag Bowl between, go figure, Mountain Union and Wisconsin Whitewater. Keith McMillan will be joining us for the call of the game on a Friday night, and you can see him on the tailgate show starting at 5 p.m. Friday afternoon here. Frank will be anchoring that show, and he'll be our sideline guy for the how many consecutive years that would be?
Number seven.
Seven of the nine that these guys, the 8 of these guys have played against each other in the last 9 years. But to be honest with you, it's a matchup as we've talked a couple times during the week, and as we'll talk with the coaches on the pregame show on Friday. It's kind of a contrast of styles. You've got the Mountain Union team, obviously well known for its offense. The Whitewater team, well known for its defense.
Yeah, in fact, this year Mount Union's offense comes in number 2 ranked in the NCAA stats, and the defense for Wisconsin Whitewater number 3, and that really is the tale of this game. Who's going to win that battle of line of scrimmage between the offense of Mount Union and the defense of Wisconsin Whitewater? That will probably set the tone for the rest of the game. And our triple take, which is on d3football.com, you'll see that I believe overtime could be a real possibility in this game because of this back and forth tug of war we'll see, especially in those two sides of the ball going at each other in this game.
One of the nice things that we won't have to deal with that we've had to deal with in the past here at the Stag Bowl, from the looks of it so far, is the weather. It was in the mid-60s on Thursday. Obviously, we're close to the mountains and things could change dramatically at any given time, but we are projected for a high again in the 60s on Friday, and it should be a nice temperate mid-50s by the time game time rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at last weekend's semifinals, you saw in Belton a good weather game for Wisconsin Whitewater. You didn't see such a good weather game in the North Central game for Mount Union. And, at the end of the day, that Mount Union game still had a lot of scoring. It probably didn't affect it as much as we probably want to think about it affecting a football game. But here it's going to be a clean game in terms of the weather. Maybe a little wind. It's breezy here right now as we record this as the warmer weather starts coming in here. It should be a non-factor. Maybe the kicking game gets a little affected if we get a little wind, but that's the only effect I could see from the weather overall.
In general, people have said over the course of the years that bad weather benefits the defense. You'd have to think that good weather at least doesn't benefit the defense. It might give a bad... Did I even get that right? Did I get that wrong the first time? I have to restate that? Bad weather benefits the offense because the offense knows where it's going. That's what I meant to say. I don't know if I actually said that, and you guys can go back and check the tape and tweet me at D3 Football if I got that wrong. Point being, where I was trying to get to was that Whitewater should have a little bit of an advantage, I would think, because at least the conditions should be good for defense.
You would think so, but then when you look at the strength of Mount Union is going to be definitely throwing the ball, and that's going to test the secondary a little bit more than, let's say, if the weather held back the long passing game of Mount Union. So there's extra things they have to defend. I think just by the confusion of you saying it, I think it works out to be a nullity at the end of the day when you have good weather. I don't think it really gives an advantage to either team in this situation. That's why it's kind of good to see. We're going to see straight up good football against two great teams here. And when you look at Kevin Burke, the Glardy Trophy winner, and Cole Klotz, another nominee, those are the types of battles you're going to see that are going to play out very well. That I, sitting here, can't tell you how it's going to go. You look at last week with Whitewater, again starting slow defensively against Mary Hardin-Baylor, just like they did against Linfield the week before. They can't really do that in this game, I don't think. They can't give up that first quarter a lot of points. Otherwise, trying to come from behind in a team like Mount Union, it's not going to work as well. We saw Wesley try it, obviously, but a different dynamic in this type of game, I think, under these spotlights. I think you give an advantage Mount Union if Mount Union gets a 2-possession lead early in this game. But if Whitewater's defense can play like I think they should come out and play for 4 full quarters, then you're talking about a different advantage altogether, to advantage Whitewater.
One thing we have almost never had to talk about now in almost the course of the past decade is experience. You have rarely had a team come here as a program or kids who come here and experience this game for the first time. For the Whitewater team, obviously, they weren't even in the playoffs at all last year, so they didn't play in the Stag Bowl. There's a class of guys who did not have that experience, but a lot of the guys, juniors and seniors, and that talks a lot about the guys on the defense, have had that experience of having played in the Stag Bowl. There'll be a lot of, guys like Cole Klotz will be playing in his third Stag Bowl, Kyle Wismer in his third Stag Bowl, those linebackers. Nobody gets intimidated by the big lights or by the media interviews or by the TV timeouts. It's really, we're going to see, I think, some straightforward, hard-nosed football.
The dynamic that you don't get to see, though, is the whole disappointment factor coming in from a previous year and how it plays out. Because as we were talking at the Glardy show yesterday with Cole Klotz and Lance Leipold, there was definitely disappointment/depression, I think, on the Whitewater team not making the playoffs at all last year, let alone the Stag Bowl. For them, just making it this far this year because they've exceeded last year is not enough. And I think in some ways, the resurgency actually gives them a momentum that maybe Mount Union doesn't even have in this type of situation. Yes, they've won 29 straight here, but at the same time, Wisconsin Whitewater is a team on a mission, not just to get back to the playoffs, but to get back onto the perch they held prior to 2012.
And the one other wild card I can think of in this game is that Mount Union is coming in with a guy who's in his first year as head coach. Obviously, Vince Karras has been around the program for decades, and he's been involved in all of these Stag Bowl teams, but it's been over the course of the last couple weeks that Mount Union has been severely tested, and that late game coaching has been very important, and he's had kind of a baptism by snow over the last couple weeks. I would have thought that if they hadn't had some of those close games in the quarters and the semifinals, that there might be more of a disadvantage, but I think he's had a chance to kind of learn some of those lessons from the previous couple weeks and come into the Stag Bowl a little bit more prepared than he would have been if they'd blown out opponents.
And it doesn't hurt having Kevin Burke as your quarterback, who basically delivers when absolutely necessary. I mean, these are the things we haven't had to see from Mount Union teams in the past. In regular season games, they blow out teams historically by 20, 30, 40 points, and there's no real worry. It is some kind of a baptism for not just the coach, but the entire team to know how to play close games and to win close games. But then you look at Whitewater's path to this championship game, and look, they've had the same situation. I think the, let's say, heart-stopping moments belong more to Mount Union in that respect, especially last week, that two-point conversion that Kevin Burke had to score. Really, we look at the ensuing touchdowns, but that two-point conversion won the game ultimately for that team. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to talk about what happened in the last 2 minutes or so of that game. So, all things told, this team, Mount Union, is very tested in those situations. Whitewater maybe not as tested, but they played closer games throughout the season as well in general. So again, that becomes a wash. Overall, just the theme I'm playing here is this is a balanced game in so many ways, and I don't see this game being a three-possession game for either team at any point in time, even the ending.
You can tune in and watch that game on ESPNU. Coverage there starts at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We, of course, would recommend that you mute the sound and listen to us on D3Football.com. I'll be calling the game along with Keith McMillan, and Frank Rossi will be on the sidelines for us. Tune in. The Tailgate Show starts at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Tweet us at #D3Tailgate if you're in the area. Come on down. First of all, it should be a fantastic game. Secondly, it's the best tailgate in Division III football. We see lots of neutral fans, lots of fans not wearing purple. I wore blue today. And Frank wore the Argyle to represent Keith, even though he's not here at the moment.
Keith.
Yeah, Keith will be here tomorrow, and we hope you will be too. You'll also get the All-American announcement, which we will be doing during our pregame show, our tailgate show on Friday night. So for Frank Rossi and for our absent Keith McMillan, I'm Pat Coleman. That's our Around the Nation podcast from Salem Stadium.